Every NFL team wants a franchise quarterback, but that is a lot easier said than done. There's a lot of talent among these NFL players, but it takes the right situation, it takes the right mindset, and sometimes just the right timing to make everything come together and work. And the Indianapolis Colts are seeing that firsthand. This past offseason, they had quarterback battle between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. And now it has been announced that Daniel Jones will be their week one starter. But was that the right decision, or should they have gone with the younger, still pretty raw as a prospect quarterback, Anthony Richardson, and just let him get his reps out there and grow that away? I don't know the answer. I am, of course, not the Colts GM for a reason, but I love having discussions like these. I'm going to make a case for both sides, and feel free in the comments to share your opinion as well. Let's break it down. So, on one hand, we have Daniel Jones. This is somebody who has been in the league since 2019 as a member of the New York Giants. And so by this point in time, he is kind of a veteran quarterback. And that feels so weird to say when you're talking about a guy that came into the league, had his first season in 2019, somebody that you were there for when he was drafted, and you can remember when he was drafted. It feels so weird to call him a veteran, but he's been around for a while now. And throughout his career in New York, he has had his highs and he has absolutely had his lows. By this point, I think we kind of know what Daniel Jones is at this point in his career. He's not going to be an above average quarterback. He might not even be a top 20 quarterback, but he's had seasons before where he can at least be serviceable. And the main case for him, in my opinion, would be that you just get some kind of stability at that quarterback spot, even if it's, not ideal necessarily. And you allow Richardson to sit behind someone who is now a veteran quarterback and learn from someone who's not only been through good times, but also very much been through the bad times. And so, with that, he knows what it's like to be in a situation like Richardson's in, where he's coming off a less than superb season, and to teach him how to navigate those waters. I think that mindset actually could be beneficial to Richardson. But overall, the case for Danny Dimes is this: we've seen him have decent seasons before, and he's not going to elevate your team, but the Colts aren't necessarily looking to win a Super Bowl this season. So you're okay with just serviceable if it's going to help the development of your long-term hopeful answer at quarterback. That's the case for Daniel Jones. He might get the job done. Not much more, but you also don't need a lot more. And then we get to Anthony Richardson. This is somebody who came into the league, and in terms of his talent and his physical ability, there were not many quarterbacks better in the league than AR. But he has had a roller coaster first two seasons. Year one, he got off to a pretty solid start, but he ultimately succumbed to injury pretty early on. And then going into his sophomore year, I thought he was going to build upon what he did his rookie season, but instead he never really found that consistency, dealing with another quarterback controversy, another quarterback battle with Joe Flacco. And I think that got into his mind just a little bit. In his sophomore season, he threw 8 touchdowns to 12 picks and completed a little under 48% of his passes. It wasn't pretty, but at the same time, this was somebody who was expected to be not an instant superstar. Someone that was going to take a while, that had the ceiling to get there, but it was not going to be a day one, season two kind of thing. So the case for Anthony Richardson is this: in spite of his flaws, you know that there is some untapped potential, there is some untapped talent there. You just have to be able to maximize the skills that he has and also grow and develop him as a quarterback, making less risky decisions, playing a little bit safer, playing to what's going to best benefit the team. And the case for him would be, in the same way that Daniel Jones is serviceable and the Colts, that's all they need. If the Colts aren't planning to go anywhere, why would they not allow their young quarterback to develop in real time against real NFL players in the pace of a live competitive game, as opposed to in practice? You've still got Jones there to offer him tips on the bench, but let Richardson figure it out. At this point, year 3, are you really throwing him to the wolves, or are you going to allow him to be molded by the flame of adversity? So, those are the cases for both sides. In my opinion, I'm leaning towards Anthony Richardson. I think overall, we just kind of have more reasons to put him in. If you're not going to go anywhere, I think you ought to let the young guy develop. I understand bringing in Jones. Heck, I even understand having him start week one. But I think with Richardson, with his skill set, with his talent, I think the biggest thing that you always want to make sure that you can keep track of is his confidence. Because every player in the NFL is very, very talented. Richardson, though, he is on the upper echelon of that talent, but it's the confidence that's going to take him to the next level. And I think we saw that last year. He didn't really have that confidence. He didn't have a consistent spot. And I think that got in his head. I think it affected his play. Because when that happens, you kind of start second guessing yourself. You start thinking about everything, every throw before you make it. So that messes with your reaction time, that messes with your decision making. And especially at that quarterback spot, you cannot allow that to happen. You have to be confident. And I think the biggest thing for building that is for Richardson to start and be able to learn from his mistakes, but not be afraid to make them. Not be afraid that Jones is going to come back in, take his spot. Not be afraid in practice that no matter what he does, he has to be perfect if he's going to ever start a game. I don't think that's a good situation to be in. So I would start Richardson. I think if you just allow him to build confidence once again and you show as an organization that you have placed your trust in him, I think that would do wonders for his career. You want to look at the opposite example? Look at Kirk Cousins last year. This is somebody who, when he went to the Atlanta Falcons, it seemed like a big contract, but he just had an incredible year with Minnesota up until he got injured. And if he was able to get back to even 80% of that, maybe with all that money, it would have been worth it, but it still would have been a very good pickup for Atlanta. And there were a couple bright spots for Cousins in ATL, but come the end of his tenure, when he ultimately got benched for Michael Penix, I think you kind of saw that lack of confidence coming into play. It felt like the franchise that had just put so much money into him didn't trust him. And you saw that from the very start when they drafted Penix with the eighth pick. That came as a shock and for good reason. And I think over time, especially as Cousins would go on and maybe have a bad game, that looming thought of Michael Penix would kind of creep in and it would get into your head, make you second guess everything. And I think you saw that on the field. And I think something similar could happen to Richardson if the Colts do not put their trust in him. So I would start him. I think that is the best thing that you can do for Anthony Richardson's career. But if they don't, if Daniel Jones is to be the guy for them this season, what is the situation for Richardson moving forward? And I don't really know. I think his tenure in Indy is kind of in limbo right now. After his rookie season, I felt pretty confident about projecting him towards the future. But after that sophomore year and after Daniel Jones being named the week one starter, I don't know how much trust the Colts have in him right now. He's obviously got the ceiling to be an NFL quarterback. He has the physical ability, but I don't know if the Colts see him as their guy right now. And I guess we're going to find out as the season goes on or even in the next season. But I don't think it's impossible that sooner rather than later we see Richardson on another team that wants to give him a chance, that wants to allow him to get confidence back in his mind, back in his game, and a franchise that also wants to place their trust into the potential of Richardson and his development. The talent is there, but I don't know if it's going to be on display in Indianapolis much longer. But let me know what you think of the situation. Who should the Colts start? What does the future look like for AR? Will he reach his potential? Or will he be somebody that we look back on and say, dang, I wish that he was able to unlock his game because he would have been so fun to watch, but he just never got there. Let me know. There's a lot of questions to be asked, and I think there's a lot of debate to be had, and that's great because the game is at its best when we can share it together. Thank you.